may never get to any of this stuff. So just make sure, and if you don't put in your best proposal and you assume you'll get to this stage, they can do a competitive range determination and decide that you're not part of the top people that they're going to continue with. So all by way of saying, make sure that first proposal is the best. So here's what can happen. The government can get your original proposal submission and decide to make an award decision based on it. That's why it's so important to give it the best one. The government may choose to do any of these activities, or they may decide to do all these activities. It's totally up to the government. You're not going to know what they're thinking about doing. Usually they'll put it in the RFP so that you can prepare for it, because these things cost you money, and they want to let you know what you're getting into. The other thing that can happen is the government could do a down select and pick the top 3 providers, in which case they'll go through these activities with the top 3 providers, but if you're not part of the top 3, you're not part of it. So that's why I want to preface this chapter with all these caveats. So the first thing that can happen is the government can issue clarification reports and deficiency reports. So as we talked about, the government reviews each proposal by looking at the RFP, the proposal, and the source selection plan. Their goal, and remember, one source selection official does training, another one does maintenance, because you want to ensure consistency of scores across all the vendors. So the goal, when I'm sitting down to evaluate a proposal, is to assign a score to each element of the proposal. So in order for me to get a check mark to say this activity is done, I have to be able to score everything on your proposal. If there's something that I'm seeing that causes me not to be able to give you a score, then I have to either issue you a clarification report or a deficiency report. So now you're taking up my time, which is why you want to make sure your proposals are good from the get-go. And they issue a clarification or a deficiency based on the severity of the issue. So for example, if you refer to 2 different names for the same product, you know, if Gen Edge had a product, Gen Edge and Gen Edge Plus, and sometimes we talk about Gen Edge Plus and sometimes we talk about Gen Edge, that would be something that they would issue a clarification over. Because they want to make sure that just like they're very particular in their RFP to you, they want to make sure that what you're responding back with your proposal is accurate, because this is now going to become the contract. Their RFP plus your contract, your proposal, is going to become the contract. So they want to make sure that everything's perfect in it. Suppose you have something in your technical proposal and it's a cost reimbursable and you don't have a price listed for it. That's going to be a disconnect. If they look at your solution and say, I don't know what these people are smoking, but this solution just flat out isn't going to work, they'll issue you a deficiency for that, because they don't have their head wrapped around how your solution is going to work. They could look at your process and say, this doesn't have enough control in it. You can be guaranteed, based on what the conversation Dean just had with all of us, that these cybersecurity plans, these system security plans, SSPs, are going to have to be part of our proposal submissions in the near future. And they're going to be looking at these processes to see whether or not they're going to meet the intended purposes. So how do you respond to a clarification or deficiency? The first thing to get through your head is the government isn't stupid. They are using this process to help you put together a better proposal. So if you have this very domineering, talk down to, oh my God, I can't believe the government didn't figure this out, it was right there, it was clear to everybody. If you have that kind of attitude, you might as well just get out of government business. Because this is an act of kindness on the government's part to tell you they can't score you at the highest level right now because they don't have a flipping clue what you're doing. So it's in your best interest to take these clarifications and deficiencies very seriously and respond in a professional manner. So if they feel you just need to clarify something to them, they'll issue you a clarification report. If they feel that your solution is totally off the wall, they don't think it's going to work, they'll issue you a deficiency report. The bottom line is that either a CR or a DR, you respond the same way. And what you do, you take the CR or DR seriously, they're trying to help you so that you can get maximum points. And what they'll do is they'll tell you the clarification or deficiency, it'll tell you the proposal section, and they'll tell you the specific RFP requirement that causes them heartburn. And they'll tell you exactly what the issue is that's causing them heartburn. So what you need to do is respond back to their CR and DR and explain yourself. So if you feel like more words will help address the issue, you go through and you put more, this is your chance to explain yourself. But then the second thing you need to do is update your proposal. Because remember, they can only evaluate what's between the two covers of your proposal. So if you don't update your proposal and you just send them a response back to the CR/DR, they still can't give you any more points because they still can't give you an answer. And I guarantee they probably won't issue you another CR because by this point, the train's out of the station.
So it's not like they'll copy and paste the edit that you just sent in just that section and then submit it, like they want the whole shebang resent properly.
You could, okay, so here's the logistics issue. Let's say the government tells you you have 30 pages for your technical response, and you submit 30 pages. And then I come back as the government and I say, hey, here's some clarifications and efficiencies. You go ahead and answer them all on, like, you write up each CR separately and each DR separately, and then you go in to update your proposal. One of the first questions you want to ask is, may I overextend the page limit?
Right.
Because I'll give you a perfect case in point. We had a procurement where we submitted CRs and DRs, and it was a brand new technology for the government. So they really didn't have their hands around it, and we really didn't have our hands. None of the contractors had their hands around it. So we're all trying to fill each other out. Anyway, there were multiple rounds of CRs and DRs. And I submitted a question, and I said, you have a 200-page limit for this proposal. Is there any way we can go over that to respond to your CRs and DRs? And they came back and said, no, absolutely not. Stay within the 200 pages. So every round of these crazy CRs and DRs, and I think we had 6. That's how we had a lot of discussions going back and forth. We would write up whatever answers we needed to explain it, and then we had to go to the proposal and update it. But for every new piece of information we added, we had to take other information out. And then guess what? The next round of CRs and DRs were saying, oh, you're missing information, opening squat. Well, of course we are, because so we lost the proposal. No surprise. We lost. We go in for the debrief, and they said to us, you know what we never understood about you guys? And we said, what? We never understood why you kept taking information out of your proposal and answering it with, putting the CR and DR information, the new information in. We don't understand why you just didn't add it to the back of your proposal and just call it done. And we're like, oh, for God's sake, we asked that question, and you told us point blank we couldn't do that. And they said, oh, yeah, we did that initially, but then we sent a hand letter to everybody because they didn't have the internet back then. So you couldn't get these automatic updates and FedBizOps and stuff. They actually sent you formal letters. And they went back through their files. They had sent it to every one of our competitors and never sent it to us. So, and can I just say one other thing? This was the same exact contracting agency that I told you about where we previously lost a deal, protested, lost it again, protested, lost it again, protested. Is there anybody in this room that believes they purposely didn't not send us? We took them off. Of course we took them off. We're humans, right? We get ticked off by crazy contractors that keep protesting when you can't get through their thick heads, right? Anyway, in that situation, we were out of luck. It was a human error on their part, and just like we make errors, they make errors, and we call it done. The other thing about CRs and DRs is that you're only allowed to change the part of the proposal related to that CR or DR. So let me tell you what used to happen. The government would say, here's an RFP. Oh, here's what would happen. The government would say, in January, the RFP is coming out. And the government, they had the Christmas holidays, the Thanksgiving holidays, and everybody's out, and you can't get all the reviews done, and everybody's overwhelmed with life, and yada, yada, yada. And so the RFP didn't come out till March. And the government still has this mission that they have to meet. So instead of giving contractors multiple months to work on this, they cut the contractor's time. So even though they took 3 extra months, they give us 30 days to respond to this RFP. Big, huge, $500 million contract. So of course, what do most contractors do? They do whatever they can to slap something together and get it over the transom. So we would all submit proposals. And our thought process had been, companies in general, the government's going to take a long time to evaluate this. While they're evaluating it, we'll basically redo our proposal, and we'll submit the proposal for evaluation at best and final offer. And that was making the government crazy, because basically all the evaluation they had done, they might as well throw out the window because we had submitted brand new proposals. So many companies were doing that the government put a kibosh on that and said, the only thing you can change about your original proposal is anything we ask specific clarifications or deficiencies about. So you have to stay limited to that. Okay, so that's clarifications and deficiencies. Any questions about that? The other thing that you're doing during these after submission activities, after you've submitted your proposal, is you have to stay on the lookout for any amendments. Amendments can happen from the day they issue the initial submission through the day they make the final contract award. And I've seen it happen on both ends and every time in between. An amendment is a document the government uses to update their RFP. It can be something as simple as extending the due date. It can be something that they've changed a formula on one of the cost or pricing sheets that you have to complete. They could have changed one of the requirements. It could be an answer to a question that they've had to change something. Maybe they've taken away a term or condition. Maybe they've updated a FAR cost. It can be anything. The point is that you as a contractor bidding on this deal have to be working from the most current version. So I'll give you a case in point. There was a company working on a procurement, HCATS. And HCATS had probably 15 amendments. And the company submitted their proposal using Amendment 15, which is what they were supposed to use. One person didn't get the word and used a form from Amendment 14. There was no change in that form from Amendment 14 to Amendment 15, but the government looked at the top, saw that it was Amendment 14, and disqualified. So they expect you to stay on top of FedBizOpps, to see any amendments coming in, and to be working with the most current version across your entire organization, who's ever working on this proposal.
One of the ways that you could do that is in FedBizOpps that says follow this
Right.
opportunity.
So you can set up a little query that basically sends you any updates to an email address.
Is there any possibility that an amendment would be made after the time of award? Or no, because by that time it is contractually bonding and no changes.
Yeah, if they do any changes after, it's a modification, contract
Okay,
modification.
gotcha.
Okay, so good rule of thumb, either check FedBizOpps every day or set up the little query that sends you an email and let you know when any changes come up. The next thing you need to do during this period is understand the ripple effect of change. Now, this is something that is not intuitively obvious to people working on proposals, but this is something that will cause you to be dead in your tracks. And the point is that if you make a change due to an amendment, so the government changes the requirement and the product you had working doesn't work anymore, you're going to have to bring in a new product. That's a change. If you make a change by selecting a new vendor, because one vendor's product price is too high, you can't negotiate with them, you need to go to a different vendor, that's an example. If you make a change because the one product won't work with your overall solution, if you make a change due to a subcontractor issue, you and the subcontractor just can't seem to get a meeting of minds, or if you make a change to any clarification or deficiency, in other words, maybe you need to add a product because you're not compliant as is. So you need to add something. Anytime any of those kind of things or anything else happens, when you make that change, it doesn't happen in one place. You have to change it in your technical proposal. You may have to change it in multiple sections of the technical proposal. You have to change it in your executive summary. You have to change it in your pricing volume because now you're dealing with a different vendor or a different product number or a different product. You have to change it in your contracts volume because if you have to put together any kind of subcontracting plan, you have to say who the new vendor is. So the point is, any change that you make, you basically have to get the volume heads of all the people who are heading up every volume and say, please make this change in your volume. And if you don't, we go back to the clarifications and deficiencies. because now you've got disconnects between what you're doing. So there's always a ripple effect. Changes, and I've mentioned all the different areas here. Okay, live test demonstrations. So this won't happen with commercial items, but if you're putting together a solution for the government, and I'm talking about a solution being anywhere from an F-18 to a computer system to maybe a new product for cleaning, whatever the issue is, the government can require a live test demonstration. And the requirements can be all over the place in terms of what they're asking for. So typically the reason why they do a live test demonstration is they want to be able to see you put together the solution so that they can test it out before they select you. So they basically want to get the look and feel of what your solution is. So they determine, with a set of requirements, what it is that they're going to be looking at. So let's take the case of an F-18. An F-18, at various points of the manufacturing process, they might come in and have you test out certain things. You know, they want to test to make sure your engines are within a certain specification. They want to make sure that all these, what was the new word we learned today? These shelter coverings, what are they called? Radums. I did not know that word today. These radums to make sure that they're compliant. Those large DoD systems have various checkpoints in their plan of action and milestones, their POEMs, that require all those tests to occur. So it's been a very natural part of large large weapon systems all along. Let's take the case of iCase. This is the procurement we lost. We had a set of requirements. The government said, we want you to create this system for us, and we're going to come in and test it. So they came in, they tested our system with what those existing requirements were. And then at lunchtime, they took a break and gave us changes to make to that system, just a list of them. We weren't allowed to make those changes. The government came back in, and they had one of their people sit down at the computer screen, and somebody from our team had to give her instructions on how to make the changes that they were asking for. What do you think they were testing? What were they testing at that meeting?
The ease of product modification.
Yeah, and you know, can somebody clearly explain to me what I have to do to be able to do this? And is it easy to? So that was the case of iCase. NMCI was a requirement where they required us, it was to provide computers for every Navy personnel and Marine Corps personnel all over the world. And they required us to set up a room full of computers, and they required us to all hit the enter key at the same time to see how quickly the system responded. And in that case, they actually tracked every single wire from every single computer to see where it went up into the walls, into the ceilings and stuff, under the floorboards. And they were testing to verify that we didn't have all these computers being hooked up to a big Cray computer in another room. They wanted to make sure that it was based on the own compute power. So my point is, they test all kinds of things. They conduct these in all different manners, or they may choose not to test it at all. So those are the options with live test demonstrations. The point is that when you have a live test demonstration, it's part of your evaluation. You will be scored, and your success or failure will help them make their buying decision. You have to take it seriously. So how do you prepare for this? First thing you want to know is exactly what parts of the solution they want to see. They may not want to see the whole thing, maybe they're just interested in some part of it. You also want to understand what the time frames are for the day. So they might come in for a whole day, they might come in for a whole week, they might come in for an hour. You need to make sure you understand exactly what they're doing. So then you prepare all your components for demonstration. So we would put them all together in a big conference room, and sometimes we'd have to bring our own internal components in. We'd have to talk to our suppliers about getting their components to be used for this live test demonstration, because we want to pay for everything. We're trying to get everybody to donate it for the live test demonstration. Make an agenda for the day, figure out who's going to speak about each thing, because the government can ask any question, so you need to be prepared for that. Write scripts, everybody has talents, and sometimes highly technical people will go down these deep rabbit holes and you need them to be